Have you ever left her message on read and carried on with your day? No drama, no explanation. Just distance and something told you she didn't take it lightly. That's because when a man stops responding, especially after she's gotten used to your presence, it creates a ripple effect she didn't expect. It's not just about a missed reply, it's the sudden shift in energy. She starts overanalyzing the last thing she said, checking if she came on too strong, wondering if your interest faded or if you're trying to make her feel your absence. Her mind goes places not because you said anything, but because you didn't. And in that space, something powerful happens. Today, we're diving into what really goes on in her mind when you don't respond, and why your restraint, your pullback often has more impact than anything you could have typed. Let's get started. Number one, the initial jolt. The initial jolt. At first, it's just surprise. She's used to guys replying quickly, trying to keep the conversation alive even when it's not deep. But you didn't jump to respond. That pause, it creates space, and space makes her feel something she didn't expect. Uncertainty. A stoic man doesn't rush to fill silence. He lets it do the talking, and that's where it begins. We live in a time where instant replies are expected, where attention is treated like currency, and where most people panic at the first sign of distance. She's used to men who double text, who apologize for not replying in 10 minutes, who rush to entertain or reassure her, even when they don't really have anything to say, but you didn't respond. Not because you're trying to be cruel or distant, but because you have something those other men don't. Emotional discipline. When you chose not to react instantly, you disrupted the pattern she's familiar with, and suddenly she's not in control of the narrative anymore. That small pause becomes a mirror. Did I say something wrong? Is he losing interest? Is he talking to someone else? Her mind starts racing through every possible explanation. But that uncertainty, that emotional jolt, it pulls her in. Because what you just did, whether intentional or not, was show her that you're not needy, you're not pressed. You're not waiting around for her message to give your day meaning. And that quiet difference, it's magnetic. Let's say she texted you something flirty or teasing. Usually guys jump right back in, playing along hoping to keep her entertained. But you read it, you didn't rush. Maybe you were busy. Maybe you were simply present in your own life. Maybe you just didn't feel the need to respond yet. That moment of calm detachment, of not needing to be seen or validated, plants a seed in her mind. A question, why didn't he react like the others? And that question lingers. Marcus Aurelius said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. That includes messages. You don't respond out of fear, out of habit, or to fill an awkward silence. You respond when it's aligned with your intention, when it's real, and she can feel that. Even if she can't put it into words, she knows there's a different energy in the way you handle connection. It's slower, stronger rooted. And here's the beautiful irony. That restraint, that stillness, it creates more emotional impact than 1,000 emojis ever could. Because she doesn't know where she stands with you anymore. And that unknown space, it becomes a spotlight, a reflection of her own expectations, her own attachment, and her own curiosity about you. Doubt starts whispering. Number two, doubt starts whispering. Now she starts asking herself quiet questions. Did I say too much? Did he lose interest? Was I too cold? And that's the beauty of your restraint. It gently pushes her to reflect, not react. A man who doesn't need constant communication, that's a man who isn't emotionally dependent. And that contrast stays with her. She's used to men who rush to explain themselves, who double text when there's a pause, who get anxious when there's silence, but you didn't fill the space, you let it breathe. And in that quiet, her own thoughts get louder. You see, when you don't respond, it doesn't mean you're playing a game. It means you're not rushing to control how she perceives you. That kind of stillness, it makes her wonder, and not just wonder about you, but about herself. Her tone, her timing, her choices. You become the mirror she wasn't expecting. A stoic man knows you don't need to chase someone into clarity. You just let the silence do its work. Seneca once said, "A wise man is content with himself." That calm contentment, it's what makes your non-reaction speak louder than any message you could have sent. Let's say she sent a message that felt a little off dry or maybe distant. She expected a quick reply anyway, a sign you were still there waiting interested, maybe even needing her validation, but nothing came. An hour a day too. That delay doesn't just frustrate her, it opens the door to introspection. Because if you're not replying, maybe you're not available, maybe you're not impressed, or maybe you're just focused on something bigger than her text. And that realization unsettles her in the best way. You're not being cruel, you're being grounded, you're choosing peace over panic. And the more she feels your absence, the more she remembers your presence. Because when a man doesn't rush to correct her perception, she starts rewriting the story in her own mind. That's when doubt starts whispering, not to harm her, but to stir curiosity. And once curiosity takes root, it rarely stays quiet. If this is resonating with you, take a second to hit that like button. It really helps get this message to the men who need to hear it. And I'd love to know what you think so far. Have you ever watched someone slowly shift just because you didn't react the way they expected? Drop your thoughts in the comments or simply type, "I don't chase clarity, I become it." Your experience might be the reminder someone else needs. Now let's keep going because this emotional shift, it's only the beginning of what happens when you hold your ground. Number 3, the power shift begins. The power shift begins. She thought she had the upper hand, that she was leading the tempo. But when you don't respond, the balance starts to shift. Suddenly she's not just waiting. She's wondering. That subtle reversal happens when a man chooses calm over chasing. It's not a game, it's just presence. And that shift, it's felt because in that moment of silence, her mind starts racing. She replays the last message, the tone of your voice, the way you looked at her. Did she misread your interest? Did she push too far? Why aren't you reacting like everyone else? Most men try to restore connection immediately. They text back fast. They apologize for pauses. They chase reassurance, but you didn't. You didn't scramble to fix the silence. You owned it. That choice alone rewrites the dynamic. She no longer feels in control of the emotional rhythm, and that's powerful. Not because you're withholding, but because you're not emotionally dependent on the outcome. A stoic man isn't driven by emotional urgency. He responds when necessary, not when provoked. And that restraint calm measured. Grounded sends a clear message. You're not here to prove your value. You live it. That quiet shift from seeking to choosing it unsettles her. Not in a cruel way, but in a way that forces reflection. She's no longer trying to manage the narrative, she's trying to understand it. It might be hours, days, even longer. But in that space, curiosity grows. Not because you disappeared, but because you didn't react the way she expected. And in today's world, where attention is cheap and desperation is common, your stillness becomes unforgettable. That's when the power dynamic turns not through manipulation, but through self-control. Not by playing cold, but by staying centered. You're not rejecting her. You're just no longer orbiting around her emotions. And when a man does that, when he chooses clarity over chaos, he naturally shifts the gravity of the connection. She may not admit it, but she feels it. And from that moment on, things are no longer on her timeline. Number 4, she checks again. She checks again. Even without sending another text, she's watching. Did he post anything? Is he online? Did he read it? Your silence makes her pay attention to things she used to ignore. Before your presence was predictable, replies came quickly. Attention was steady, and she never had to question if you were still around. But now there's space, and in that space, her mind starts spinning. She checks again. Not because she needs a reply to continue her day, but because your absence now says more than any response could. She scrolls through your page looking for signs. Was that quote you posted meant for her? Was your last story about someone new? Why haven't you liked her latest post? And it's not about the content, it's about the energy. The lack of interaction feels louder than the conversations you used to have. That shift it unsettles her because she remembers how it felt when she was the center of your attention. Now she's on the outside looking in. What's really going on in her mind when you don't respond? At first, she may have thought you were just busy, but as the hours turn into days, that casual thought turns into deeper questioning. Did I lose his interest? Is he doing this on purpose? Has he moved on? And those questions don't always lead to clarity. They often lead to overthinking. The silence you left behind becomes a mirror. It makes her reflect even if she doesn't want to. That's the impact of restraint. It forces someone else to face the noise within themselves. You didn't respond, not because you're trying to get her to miss you, but because you've learned that not everything deserves your reaction. That kind of strength isn't about playing hard to get. It's about being hard to shake. It's the strength of someone who has control over his emotions. Someone who doesn't need to prove his worth with impulsive replies, and that's strength. It doesn't go unnoticed. While she's checking, scrolling, overanalyzing, what lingers most is the feeling that something changed. Not in her phone, but in you. Your stillness has weight now. It carries a message without needing words. So let me ask you, have you ever felt that same pull from someone's silence? That moment where their lack of reaction made you reflect harder than any conversation ever could. Drop your thoughts in the comments or simply type "stillness speaks louder." I'd love to hear what this brought up for you because this next part goes even deeper into the emotional shift happening beneath the surface. Let's keep going. Number 5. The ego feels it. The ego feels it. Her pride takes a hit. Not because you were rude, but because you didn't seek her out. Most guys, when ignored, try harder. You didn't. You stayed centered. And now her ego, it's scrambling for answers. A man who values his own peace more than her approval is a rare encounter. And she feels that at first she may tell herself it doesn't matter. She'll try to brush it off, but behind the surface confidence, there's a flicker of confusion. Why hasn't he texted back? Is he really not going to say anything? That quiet from your end, it wasn't loud, but it disrupted the pattern. You didn't come running. You didn't flood her inbox with apologies or chase her with explanations. You didn't try to regain control. You simply didn't lose it. And that's what unsettles her more than any dramatic gesture could. Her ego had expected your persistence. It had counted on the usual pattern distance followed by pursuit. But instead, she was met with space. Calm, intentional space. You didn't retreat in anger. You just didn't chase. And that kind of response measured, still grounded hits differently. Because here's the thing, the Stoic man is not a puppet to his emotions. He doesn't act out of impulse or need for validation. He pauses, he reflects, he asks, does this serve my peace? And if it doesn't, he holds the line not to play games, but to protect what's within. Marcus Aurelius said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Chasing someone who is unsure about you, that's a waste. And she senses that you're the kind of man who understands that it's in your silence that she starts hearing her own thoughts more loudly. Did I misread him? Did I push him too far? Is he really done? She won't say it out loud, but inside something shifts because your non-response isn't passive, it's powerful. It shows that you're not starving for her attention, nor trying to prove your worth. You're simply centered in your own value. She might test the waters with subtle signs viewing your story, sending a vague message liking an old post. That's not coincidence, that's her ego trying to confirm she still matters to you. But when she's met with the same calm stillness, it stirs something deeper because you're not resisting her. You've just chosen not to betray yourself for temporary closeness. And that leaves a lasting impression because when a man doesn't fold under the weight of silence, when he doesn't abandon himself, just to be heard, he becomes the one she can't stop thinking about. Not because he begged for it, but because he didn't. Number 6, she rehearses her next move. She rehearses her next move, now she's overthinking. Should she double text? Wait a few days, send something funny or casual? That hesitation tells you something. Your calm energy made her slow down. You're not unpredictable out of chaos. You're composed out of clarity that makes her pause and plan. And here's the truth. Most don't see when you don't respond. Her mind doesn't just go quiet, it goes active. Hyperactive even. She starts weighing her options. Should she pretend like she didn't notice the delay? Should she act like she's unbothered too? Or should she take a risk and reach out again first? That indecision she's battling with isn't just about what to say. It's about how to maintain the image she thought she had control over. See, most women are used to men jumping at the opportunity to keep a thread alive. But when you step back and don't play into that rhythm, you interrupt her expectations. And now she's on the back foot. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's exactly what she senses in your non-reaction. You're not acting out of anger. You're not ignoring her to create confusion. You just don't feel the need to respond immediately, especially if the energy doesn't match your standards. And that stillness, that self-control, it makes an impact without a single word. Imagine this. She picks up her phone at night just to check if you've posted anything. Maybe to see if you're online. Nothing. So she opens your last message, reads it again. She starts typing something casual, maybe a meme, maybe a subtle, just checking in. But then she hesitates, deletes it because now she realizes this isn't the same dynamic. She's not the one being pursued anymore. You're not orbiting around her attention like others might. You're centered in your own world, and she feels that shift and stayed still, calm, focused on your center. That's what throws her off, and that's where Stoicism comes in. Because this isn't about pretending you don't care. It's not about playing some cold game. It's about knowing who you are so clearly that you don't need to perform for approval. A Stoic man doesn't get trapped in someone else's expectations. He lives by his own values. His actions aren't reactions. They're decisions. And your decision not to respond, not to correct her story, not to break your calm, just to keep a temporary connection alive, that speaks volumes. Imagine she tried to pull away after a disagreement. Maybe she sent something vague like, "Maybe we're not on the same page," expecting you to rush in, clarify everything, fix it. But when that reply never came, when all she got was silence, it didn't confirm her power. It questioned it. Because now she's left wondering, was he unfazed? Did he care less than I thought, or did I misjudge him entirely, that emotional uncertainty? It's heavy and it's different from the chaos she might be used to, because this time the silence isn't emotional punishment. It's not a ploy. It's clarity. Your energy speaks for you. And in doing nothing, you just said everything. You didn't try to win her over. You stood firm in your worth, and now the story she built around you no longer fits. She thought she could predict your moves. Now she's rethinking the whole game. That's when her assumptions begin to crumble. Not with a bang, but with the quiet realization that you were never the one who needed convincing. And that realization, that's what lingers in her mind when you don't respond. She starts to miss your energy. Number 9, she starts to miss your energy. It's not the conversations she misses, it's the feeling behind them. You weren't overly emotional, but you were steady. You didn't need attention, but you gave it when it mattered. Now, without your energy in the room, something feels off. She starts to crave the peace you carried, not the performance. And that's the part that catches her off guard because it wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, and it definitely wasn't needy. It was quiet, intentional, and real. That subtle, grounded presence you brought, it left an impression she didn't fully register when you were there. You didn't try to dominate the space, you didn't rush to fix every emotional spike or chase every moment of connection. Instead, you were consistent, calm, solid. You were the one person who didn't mirror her chaos, and now in your absence, that contrast becomes clear. Other people might be entertaining, talkative, even exciting for a while, but excitement fades. What sticks is emotional safety. What lingers is the way a stoic man can be still and secure in who he is, while others constantly shift to be liked or accepted. She might replay moments in her mind not because of what you said, but how she felt around you. Maybe it was that one evening where she vented about her stress and you just listened without interrupting, without judging. Maybe it was the way you didn't flinch when she tried to provoke you with silence or sarcasm. You didn't get dragged into the emotional noise, you stayed composed. And that kind of presence, it's rare. It's not something she can replace with a few swipes or late night texts from someone new. The Stoic man understands that connection isn't just about words, it's about energy. It's about what you bring into a space by being not performing. You didn't show up to impress, you showed up to be real. And now that you're not there, she starts to feel the difference. Not just in her day to day, but in her emotional world. There's a gap. And it's not filled by noise, it's defined by the absence of your calm. So, what's going on in her mind when you don't respond? It's not just confusion or ego. It's a deeper realization that maybe she overlooked the one thing she actually needed. A man who doesn't chase validation, doesn't fold under pressure, and doesn't beg to be seen. A man who gives peace because he is peace. And once she's felt that even for a moment, the rest of the world starts to feel a little too loud, a little too much, and not enough at the same time. Take a second and think about that. How many people truly bring peace instead of pressure? How many show up without needing to be noticed? That's the difference she's now beginning to feel. Not because you vanished, but because your quiet strength stood out. If you've ever been in that position where your presence spoke louder than any performance drop, your thoughts in the comments, or simply type, "Real presence is felt, not performed." Let's keep this reflection going because what comes next reveals even more about what silence can awaken in someone's heart. Number 10. She wonders if you're done. She wonders if you're done. Eventually, the question gets real: is he done with me? The thought doesn't come in loud or dramatic. It creeps in quietly. At first, she brushes it off. Maybe you're just busy. Maybe you need some space. But as more time passes without a reply, without a reaction, here's where it really gets interesting. That pause she takes before hitting send, that's when attraction brews. Because it's no longer about whether you like her, it's about whether she still has a place in your life. You flip the frame without doing anything flashy, just by holding your ground. That composure, that emotional discipline, it's rare, it's magnetic. So if you're wondering what's going on in her mind when you don't respond, this is it. She's not forgetting you. She's not unfazed. She's rehearsing. She's reevaluating. She's strategizing how to reconnect without looking like she's chasing. And all of that is happening because you gave her something most men don't. The gift of not over-explaining yourself. Number 7. Nostalgia kicks in. Nostalgia kicks in. When the silence lingers, her mind starts drifting. She remembers the calm way you listened, the times you didn't overreact, the way your presence felt solid, unshaken. You didn't do anything flashy. You didn't try to impress. You just were. And in a world full of noise, that stillness sticks. At first, she might brush it off. Maybe she tells herself, "You're just busy or moved on." But late at night, when there's nothing left to distract her, that's when it starts. Her thoughts drift to the way things used to feel around you. There's no loud memory, no dramatic moment. It's the subtle things that replay. The way you let her talk without interrupting. The way you kept your cool when she was emotional. The quiet confidence you carried even when things were uncertain. And now, without your responses, those moments feel louder than ever. It's not just about missing you, it's about missing the energy you brought into her life, the peace, the steadiness. You didn't try to control things, you didn't beg for clarity or force connection. You allowed space, you stayed present. And that's the part that keeps echoing in her head. Because most people, they either explode or disappear, but you did neither. You remained composed, unbothered. That left an impression deeper than any love bomb ever could. You see, when you don't respond, it doesn't just feel like you're gone. It feels like something grounded has been removed from her life. And that absence makes her look inward. She starts to reflect not just on you, but on how she showed up. Was she too reactive? Did she take your calm for granted? Did she confuse your peace with passivity? These are the thoughts that begin to creep in. And that's the quiet power of Stoicism. You didn't withdraw to punish her. You simply didn't chase. You held your center, as Epictetus would say, because you knew your worth doesn't rely on someone else's attention. Your silence wasn't cold. It was steady. It was intentional. A reflection of a man who values clarity over confusion and peace over performance. Now she's left filling in the blanks. She replays your last words. She rereads the old chats. She stares at the screen longer than she should, wondering if she should reach out. Nostalgia does that? It makes people miss what they didn't fully understand in the moment. And when that nostalgia is connected to peace, to groundedness, to quiet strength, it hits harder. Because that kind of presence isn't just remembered, it's felt long after you've gone quiet. And the longer you remain still, the louder those memories get. Not because you're trying to be unforgettable, but because you already were. So here's where it gets interesting. Because now it's no longer about what you said or did, it's about what she's starting to feel in your absence. That shift from your steady presence to total stillness creates a space where her thoughts have nowhere to hide. And that's when realizations start to surface. So, let's take a moment here. Think about what kind of energy you leave behind. Is it calm? Is it grounded? Is it something she'd feel the loss of, even in silence? Drop your thoughts in the comments or simply type "stillness leaves echoes." I'd love to hear how this has shown up in your own journey. Now let's dive deeper into what happens next. Number 8. Her assumptions crumble. Her assumptions crumble. She thought she had you pegged. Maybe she thought you'd chase. Maybe she expected you to argue, to explain yourself, to overcompensate just to keep her comfortable. And when you didn't do any of that, when you simply chose not to respond, her entire mental script started falling apart. That version of you, she thought she had figured out, the one who'd always seek closure, who couldn't handle distance, who needed her presence to feel complete gone. And that absence, it's louder than any words you could have sent. You see, most people operate on patterns, especially in dating. She's likely dealt with men who reacted on impulse, who couldn't handle being left on red, who double text out of fear or start arguments to regain control. That's what she was prepared for. That's what she braced herself against. But instead of reacting, you paused. You didn't chase validation. You didn't try to correct her impression of you. You didn't try to prove you're not like the rest. You just shifts. And the more you remain still, the louder her thoughts get. What makes her question everything isn't your silence itself. It's the way you're carrying it. You didn't ghost her out of spite. You didn't try to hurt her. You didn't send one last emotional message hoping to spark a response. You just stopped reaching out with grace, with calm, with acceptance. And that's the kind of silence that unsettles her, because it's not desperate. It's not trying to teach her a lesson. It's not screaming for attention. It's just final. There's no storm, no flames, just the closing of a door she didn't expect to shut so softly. And that softness, that's what makes her doubt what she thought she knew. Maybe she assumed you'd always be there. Maybe she believed you'd circle back eventually. But now your absence feels different. It doesn't feel like a pause, it feels like a decision. That's the Stoic difference. You didn't detach because you stopped caring. You detached because you cared about yourself enough to stop chasing what no longer aligned with your peace. A Stoic man doesn't cling to what resists. He observes, he accepts. And when the time comes, he lets go. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. He doesn't make a show of it. He simply exits the emotional chaos and chooses stillness over struggle. She notices, even if she won't say it out loud, she notices that you didn't come back to argue. You didn't send that just one more message. You didn't try to explain your worth. And the more you remain silent, the more she starts asking herself the questions she once avoided. Did he really move on? Is he not coming back? Did I lose something I didn't fully appreciate? And here's the part most men miss. You didn't need to walk away loudly to leave an impact. You left with stillness, and that stillness echoes. She's not just wondering if you're done with her. She's starting to realize you might have never needed her the way she assumed. That your presence was a gift, not a plea. That your care had boundaries. And now that you've stepped back, she's feeling the contrast, so when you don't respond, what's going on in her mind? It's not just confusion, it's reflection, it's uncertainty. It's that sinking feeling that maybe you were the one who saw things clearly all along. And you didn't need to yell chase or explain to prove it. You just moved in alignment with your values. That's what stays with her. That's what makes her wonder long after the messages stop. And there it is, the quiet truth. Conclusion that most men overlook. Real strength isn't loud. It's not in double texts, long explanations, or chasing clarity from someone unsure. It's in your restraint, your presence, your ability to remain centered, even when your emotions try to pull you off course. That kind of strength doesn't just shift the dynamic. It changes how she sees you and, more importantly, how you see yourself. If this video resonated with you, I hope it reminded you that stillness is not weakness. It's power under control. It's the confidence of a man who doesn't need to prove anything because he already lives it. That's the quiet edge. That's what lingers. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced this shift when your calm created more impact than any reaction could? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your experience might be the reminder another man needs right now. If this message spoke to something deep in you, make sure to hit that like button. It helps the video reach more people like you. And if you haven't already, take a moment to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. There's more insight waiting for you. Tap one of the recommended videos on your screen to keep learning, reflecting, and evolving. Because this journey, it's just beginning. Stay grounded, stay intentional, and never forget your peace is your power.